All right. So today we'll be talking about aids on pylons. Here are some of the references that I used: Commercial ACS Airplane Flying Handbook. AOPA has a good article on how to do the maneuver, as well as the Aircraft Training Guide from USOA. So first off, have you ever seen, like on TV, in a movie, how police helicopters or wildland firefighter aircraft will stay around at a certain point, maintain visual line of sight so that they can point a camera at it, or see something that's going on without, like, having to fly off and then come back, fly off and then come back. So they maintain visual line of sight. And that's one of the concepts that is talked about in this maneuver. So basically, the whole point of this maneuver is to maintain a constant visual line of sight with a pylon, in this case, and then during that you'll have continuous changes in altitude and airspeed because you'll be going up or down based on how far or how close you are to the pylon. So that is kind of the objective of this maneuver, so that commercial people who are looking to get their commercial licenses can demonstrate that they have the ability to maintain a visual line of sight, as well as advanced maneuvering capabilities of their aircraft. So, yeah. And then, all right, I'll be talking about the setup first. So, first up, obviously, what's the first thing we do before every maneuver?
Chaps.
Chaps. What is chaps?
Clearing turns, heading, airspeed, power setting, place to land. Or safe place to land. Yeah, buddy.
Alright. So, first up, clearing turns. You know how to do those. In this maneuver, we've done a little bit differently. When I draw it out for you guys, that's kind of where I'll show you what it looks like. Heading, all that stuff. But first thing you need to be doing, probably before you even get in the aircraft, because it's kind of hard beforehand. First, you need to calculate your pivotal altitude. So there is a calculation for it, which I'm going to show you right now. It's easiest to just have sort of a chart with a bunch of the pivotal altitudes already calculated out on it. But the calculation is, so for pivotal altitude, it is ground speed squared divided by 11.3 plus your MSL altitude. And this is what you'll set your altitude bug to in the aircraft. Alright, so
Can you say that equation one more time?
It is ground speed squared divided by 11.3 plus your MSL altitude.
Sweet.
And then, alright, so for example, let's say we have a 90 knot ground speed. So 90 knots squared is
90 knots squared is 8,100.
So 8,100 divided by 11.3.
716.3.
Yeah,
Oh, that's crazy, bro.
Alright, so that equals 700, roughly 720. So just to make that math a little bit easier, and then around in our practice areas, we're usually at about 900, high 800s. So to make that easier, we'll put it at 8. So, yeah. And then add those two together is 1,600. Right there.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so this is kind of how you would calculate your MSL altitude, or your MSL pivotal altitude that you can kind of bug and start the maneuver at. It is a lot easier to just already have a chart. There's lots of charts you can just find online. You can have it in ForeFlight written down. I personally have a laminated piece of plastic that shows me giant list of them, so I don't have to worry about it when I'm in an airplane. You know, your math capabilities drop significantly when you're in the airplane. I'm sure all pilots here and can understand that. Next up, another thing, speed. The speed for this is working. Airspeed is 100 knots. Is what will complete this maneuver at initially. Obviously, that changes throughout the maneuver. And then after that, what you can do is fly into the upwind for a while, just looking for a point. And then as soon as you find 2 points, downwind or upwind, it just depends. If you're going, let's say this is the downwind, and this is the upwind. If you're flying in the downwind, you find 2 points off to your left and right. You are going to have to do you want them to be about a mile to a mile and a half. Good rule of thumb is if you're flying in between them and both of them are about halfway up the wing strut, that should be about good for the maneuver. But back to what I was saying, if you're flying in the downwind, you're going to have to make a left turn and then another left turn. So where you're on the upwind, come in, and then make a left turn. These would count as your clearing turns as well. Then your next. And then after that, you will enter on the 45 to enter the 45 degrees, and then we'll just do this. So let's go to the center. Probably not gonna look great, but go in. And as soon as you hit visual line of sight with that, or your lateral axis is aligned with the, that was terrible. But as soon as your lateral axis is aligned with the pylons, so right about here, you'll roll in, and what you're going to do is put your about a soda can's length from your wingtip on top of that pylon. So kind of what that's going to look like is, pretend this is your window off your left side. So you have your wing, and then pylon down here. You want about a soda can's length in between the two to do that. So after that, rolled in, you're maintaining about constant bank. You know, there's going to be variations like every maneuver, but for the most part, you will keep the same bank unless it's really bad winds and you're getting pushed off. Then the ACS says that you can change that bank to maintain. So obviously during the maneuver, you're not going to be able to be perfectly aligned with the pylon, so due to wind. So to correct for that, if it is going in front of you, you're going to push down to gain that line of sight that we talked about earlier. And then if it's getting behind you, you'll pull back and maintain that sight picture as you go around. So as you go around, you make one move around the first pylon, and then you're going wings level right about the opposite side. And then you'll go make a straight level until you're back. This isn't a representation. A little bit better. Until you're on that lateral axis again, and you roll back into the other one, maintaining visual line of sight, using the same pushing forward and pulling back technique that I mentioned before. And then finally, you will roll out on your initial heading. So what you're going to want to do when you're entering on that 45 with your on your HSI, just set your heading bug to that 45-degree point so that you know where to roll out on as you move it. And then, yeah, some restrictions with this is that you it is required that you maintain 500 feet AGL above the ground at all times. If you go below that, automatic failure. Also, you're not allowed to for the FAA. And then, yeah, another big point about this is you are at 1600 MSL, so you're very close to the ground. You do not want to be uncoordinated during this maneuver. If you get yourself into a situation where you stall, any of that sort of stuff happens, there is a good chance there's not going to be enough time to recover. So make sure you have a place to land and that you're maintaining coordinated and safe flight throughout the maneuver. Some common errors. So a big one is lots of students will try and use rudder to align that visual line of sight that we talked about down here. And the problem with that is, one, you're not doing what the maneuver requires of you, as well as you're going to be uncoordinated. And then, like I talked about, it's unsafe. So, and then excessive gain or loss of altitude / airspeed, either of those also not good, as well as if you calculate your pivotal altitude incorrectly, the entire maneuver is going to be kind of messed up. And yeah, any questions so far? Nope. All right. ACS, you can look it up, like I said, in a commercial ACS. There isn't any specific sort of altitude and airspeed or heading requirements that is normally talked about in other maneuvers. There's just, you need to be rolling out on your entry heading, you need to maintain decent visual line of sight, can't go below 500 AGL, excessive altitude gain or loss, same with airspeed. Most of it is basically up to the DP. Big things are can't go below 500 AGL, you need to roll out on that heading, and the rest is, are you doing the maneuver correctly? And then some questions for you is, what is this maneuver demonstrating?
This maneuver demonstrates, I guess, pilot's ability to maintain a line of sight with whatever object they'd like to. Could be a building, could be a statue, whatever. Is the pilot able to not deviate away from that point and do it in a safe manner?
Yeah. And then, for you, do you think that you're going to be doing that calculation every time, or you're gonna have that chart right now?
I'll be doing the calculation every time.
Oh.
I think I could do it. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well.
No, I'm fine with you.
And then, what are some of the errors that you notice that you may have either noticed in your own flight or that I talked about?
Errors would be not correcting accordingly. I remember when I first tried to do this maneuver, I would push down when I was supposed to pull up, and pull up when I was supposed to push down just because I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Improper planning, also choosing pylons incorrectly, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the rest, more common areas you can find in either the aircraft training guide for the SOA, or I think it's the last page 18 of chapter 7 in the airplane flying handbook. And yeah, so that's all I got. Any questions on any of that?
No boy.
Alrighty, let's go fly. Yeah, finally.